So you're gonna hear me mostly and watch what I'm doing. So here we go. We're gonna make some quinoa. You ready to do it in risotto style? I'm gonna show you one of my favorite recipes. Absolutely favorite recipe. So I have a pan here, and there's some butter in there already. All right, it's been on and getting warm. Right here, I have a pan with some chicken stock. Okay, also nice and warm and ready to rock. And my onions, and I actually really enjoy shallots too. So I actually do onions and shallots. We're just going to put them in here with the butter that's in here and let them sweat. We're in no way trying to brown them. When we let them sweat out all those yummy juices, our grain, whatever grain we choose, remember I said we're going to do quinoa today, but we're doing it risotto style. That grain is going to soak up that flavor. So we want them to sweat out a little bit. You can see there's still a good amount of fat in the pan. I like to start with butter. You can, if you want, you can start with oil. Okay? So we got those sweating. They're almost done. At this point, I could add in some garlic if I wanted to. Just get that sweating. But next is your grain. You're going to want to put your grain in, and this is my quinoa, all right? And yes, it's a little sticky because I washed it, okay? If you're ever working with quinoa, remember quinoa is a seed, okay? And that seed has a little bit of a toxic protection, so it can be really bitter, okay? So you want to rinse your quinoa before you cook it. If you've ever had quinoa before and maybe you didn't like it, it's possible you didn't rinse it before you cooked it. So what we're doing now is just making sure that all the seeds are coated in that fat and that delicious onion flavor, and we're warming them up, okay? This is going to take a lot less time than our rice risotto if we were to do like a short grain rice, like our arborio. These don't take too long to cook all the way. Okay, now we have them nice and hot. We're just waiting to make sure that they pop a little bit. You can see it's all coated in there. All right. Now we're going to start adding stock. I know a lot of you would say, what about the wine? What about the wine? Yes, when we're doing rice, we would do some white wine. But for this quinoa recipe, we're going to skip the white wine part and go straight to the stock. All right, so I'm going to do a ladle first. Make sure that I'm stirring so all the quinoa is getting cooked. And then when you notice that there's room in the pan, you can see the bottom of the pan, all the liquid's absorbed already, you're going to add another ladle, okay? And that's your risotto style. We've done this quite a few times with rice before, but never with quinoa. Now, I can't tell you how many minutes it'll take because it depends on how hot your stock is, how hot your stove is, how big of a pan you use. Everyone's going to come out with a different amount of time that it takes to cook. So, like I always say when somebody asks me when it's done, I say it's done when it's done, right? Yes, chef. That's what everybody would say. And I bet they said yes, chef, while they're watching this. All right, we're gonna put a little bit more in so it's nice and juicy while we're finishing. My favorite part about quinoa has to be that it tells you when it's done cooking, okay? It goes from this tiny little, let's see if I can show you, maybe in my hand, tiny little seed, okay, to a translucent little sphere with a ring around it where the shell popped off. So if you're looking real closely, you can tell when the quinoa is done. And it is almost done. Cooks pretty quickly. Still got a lot of bite to it, which is what I love about quinoa. Alright, I'm going to lower down my heat a little bit. We're going to do some finishing techniques. We're going to add some butter. Alright, sometimes you add butter, sometimes you add cream. I'm going to add both because of what I'm doing at the end of this. So we're going to add some butter. Turned my heat down. Add some butter. Melt in there. Give it some shine. Gives it some richness. Let that butter melt in there. Okay. Remember, when you're doing risotto style, you should have a creamy texture. Okay, when you're plating it, when you're putting it in a bowl, it should be a nice creamy texture. It shouldn't be dry, it shouldn't be formable, you shouldn't be able to put it in a mold. That would mean it's overcooked or too dry. I'm now going to go ahead and put in some heavy cream. Okay, let that warm up and start to soak in. Going to change the color, of course, and some of that fat from the butter and from the heavy cream is going to take away a little bit more of that bitterness that comes from the quinoa. It's also going to give it a nice creamy texture. It's fantastic. Could be a whole meal, but it also could be, you know, a side dish. I like to do like a seared tuna with this. All right, here comes my favorite part. You notice I haven't salted it yet because I'm going to add a bunch of cheese. Decided I wanted to do a nice cheesy one. I know it sounds weird, but it is quite delicious. I did a mixture of cheeses. I have some cheddar, I had some Jack, and I also had some Munster. So I'm going to put it in here. My heat is on very, very low now for melting this cheese. You certainly don't want to burn the cheese. You want it to just melt in there. And because you added the cheese, you could do Parmesan too, is one of my favorite. Queso fresco is also really good in here. Okay. By the way, this is enough for like 4 people that I made here. That's why we're gonna have it for lunch. All right, nice and creamy. I'm gonna go ahead and turn it off, even though it was really low. I'm gonna turn it off so that none of the cheese falls on the bottom and burns. Okay, we had all that cheese in there, so I haven't salted it yet. So this is where we have to give it a taste. See how it is saltiness wise. Just needs a pinch of salt. It's got an al dente finish. Chewy but delicious. And very creamy. I hope you notice I've been using a rubber spatula the whole time so that I can scrape the sides and the corners of my pan, because if you get little granules stuck in the corners of your pan, then they will burn or they'll cook faster. So you want to be able to scrape the bottom. So my quinoa is finished. It's very creamy. It's not hard, it definitely falls. it on, we'll put some on a plate so you can see. You can see that it spreads still, which is a good sign. Ooh, spread a little too much. And you could put your protein right on top. It's all finished. You could eat it just plain. I got plenty enough to eat just plain. I appreciate you paying attention and sticking with me while we made quinoa risotto style. Have a great day.